Hey guys, I'm back. Just a few seconds after I just signed off with you there. Hope I didn't bore you with that story, but again, hopefully there might be a time in your life that you or someone involved with you comes across a situation and you can just pause and say maybe I should have pointed the thumb. But I really want to talk about this here because this led into some conversation a couple of nights ago, um, and this is something that I hope to put a positive spin on at the end, maybe a positive spin. A couple of days ago, good family friend of mine went under her, I don't know what treatment for chemotherapy for stage 4 breast cancer. Um, Cancer affects so many people. It's it's kind of scary. Um, I don't know anybody. I don't know anyone that hasn't somehow, some way, known somebody that's been affected by it. I work with a young lady here. I'm in the office right now. Um, that's recovering. My children's grandmom passed away of breast cancer. We know my brother passed away of cancer. It affects everybody. On that same day, after hearing that, and again thinking back and reflecting a little bit, I started talking to a friend of mine. We don't talk all that often, but we're talking, and he told me a story of a buddy of his, 54 years old, uh, just got diagnosed. I'm not far from 54. I'll be celebrating my 51st birthday on this trip in September. And then at the same time, he told me this. So his brother's wife had some pains in her back, I guess, and went to the doctor. And holy heck, stage 4 liver cancer. I think it was liver cancer. I could be wrong. Forgive me, but stage 4 cancer. 44 years old. Um, it's just an amazing disease that we haven't been able to come up with a cure for yet. Um, I don't want to be too dramatic and ask for a moment of silence, but I will ask you all on your own terms. Just take a moment to think about the folks that you've lost and that have been lost, and try to appreciate life. So um, that led to a conversation about life that I've had for a long time, and I'd ask you all to play along with me for a moment if you can. So I always had this theory. Um, Obviously, it'll never happen, but I always had this, I don't even know if it's a theory, dream, kind of whatever. I don't know what you want to call it. But what if? What if we lived in a world? Just think about this for a moment. We only know life as we know it because it's what we live. It's not a change. But what if we had a world where it went like this? There was no disease of any kind. There was no childhood disease in particular. And I am so sensitive to the kids, and I'll tell a story about my daughter and Hershey Medical Center here. I won't do it this video. Maybe I will. Anyway, imagine a world where there's no disease. Okay, nobody gets sick early. We have, we have aches and pains, but we don't have terminal illnesses. Imagine if the world was like that. But here's the trade-off. Because the fact that we can live with the guarantee of no illness, when we turn, and I used to use the age of 70. You turn 70, you have an expiration date, just like, something, battery life. So in my little scenario, there's no illness, there's no death early, everybody lives a healthy life. But when you turn 70 years old, we just expire, okay? And before you say how crazy that is, think about how you would react if that was the case. So if you're 70, right now, we mourn death, right? Death happens, and a lot of times it catches us off guard, or if it doesn't catch us off guard, there's a lot of suffering involved, and it's very, very emotional. But imagine a time where we all knew when our time was coming. There was a countdown of all our lives, basically, right up there, and we knew. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to make sure we told everybody that we loved, how much we loved them? Wouldn't it be fun to somehow celebrate, the passing, and I don't want to say celebrate the passing, but celebrate the life, right? We all know we have it. And I know it's kind of a whole paradigm shift of thinking, and it can never happen. But if you didn't know life as we know it now, and that was just the norm, um, imagine how differently we would view death. And then I asked the question that I ask folks to think about, and this is how I've tried to live my life, because with having death so prominent in my life at a young age, it's kind of always in the back of my mind to some degree. And I do appreciate life every day, and I try to enjoy life every day. But imagine how differently you would live your life if you knew that there was a set expiration date. Would you waste your time sitting in front of a TV as much? Would you still enjoy TV as much, or reading, or whatever it is? Or would you get more involved with volunteering, or making an impact on people's lives? Or would you, or again, how differently would you live your life? And I know in my own case, if I had that expiration date that I saw coming, I would certainly have a lot more urgency to do some of the things that I've set out to do on my bucket list and stuff like that. And I think we all would. I think that'd be a natural reaction, right? Hey, time's running out. We got to get this done. Just like it's, hey, summer's coming to an end, and we wanted to do this, this, and this, and we got to squeeze it all in. And I just asked the question then, because the reality is we all do have an expiration date, right? So if you knew you had a date at 70 years old, boom, that's it. How much more urgency, how much more passion, how much more appreciation would you live your life with? And if you answer the question probably at least a little bit, if not a lot, then my question and challenge to you is, why aren't you doing it now? Because guess what, folks? It may not be 70. It may be 44. It may be 56. It may be 97. But we all have a point where we're going to pass on to another generation. So why aren't you living your life with the urgency? I've come through some things, and one of the reasons I'm going on this journey is a relationship, issue, I guess to say to some degree. Why, when you look back at so much wasted negative energy and things like that, why? And I'm kind of mad at myself for it. Not mad at myself at the person, mad at myself that negativity was there, that draining was there, that emotion was taken out. We should be living life every day like we have an expiration date, and that's kind of the thought I wanted to have here. So the positive spin is this. I'm going to be leaving for my trip. I'm going to be leaving Monday, July 9th at 9 a.m. from there's a local dairy convenience store that's fabulous. It's called Rutter's. It's in central Pennsylvania. And I'm going to be leaving from their location on Salem Church Road in West York. And it's the closest thing to about 20 miles, 25 miles from Gettysburg, where I'll probably try to hopefully make my first stop and meet somebody who'd be willing to talk with me and be my first story of the book. But I'm going to be leaving from those folks, and they were kind enough, upon hearing about it, to let me know that they were going to make a $500 donation in the name of myself, or point the thumb, to a local charity of my choice. And the local charity of my choice I live not far from Hershey, Pennsylvania, and the Hershey Medical Center and the Hershey Pediatric Center in particular just does amazing work. And so I asked them to make the donation to Hershey Pediatric. So that covers a lot of things other than just cancer, but certainly it covers that. And that will lead me to my next story that I wasn't sure I was going to tell, but I am going to tell it. Why not, right? It's my platform. What the heck? You can tune out if you want. I wanted to be a dad since I was about 17 years old. I had 4 miscarriages. And there was a time where I kind of thought, hey, I got to come to terms that I'm never going to be at least a biological dad. And then I met Heather, my kid's mom, and we were blessed to have a baby. And my daughter was born. And wow, what an amazing day and in life. Well, a few weeks into her life, she wasn't able to keep food down. She was spitting up. She'd eat and she'd spit up. Now babies spit up, we know that, right? And the first reaction of her mom and I was, well, that's what babies do. But then it started to become a little bit of a concern. So we called the doctor, and the doctor over the phone, the nurse said, well, maybe it's the formula. She might be allergic to the formula. And as a kid, I had a bunch of allergies, so okay. So we changed formula, and it continued. And I remember this specifically. It was like a Friday, and I remember I was out of town for something. I don't recall what. And Heather called me, and I said, make a doctor's appointment for Monday, and we're gonna go get this taken a look at. So she made a doctor's appointment. We went up together to pediatrician, and the pediatrician came in and looked at her, and he didn't have the chart. We came to find out, so he didn't know she had actually lost a pound, which is not good for a young baby. But he basically essentially said, "Oh, it's probably just a allergy, and just try something different." And I said, "No, no, we're not going to go with probably. If it's something else, possibly. We're going to eliminate that. Okay, we're not just going to keep taking guesses. My daughter's not eating." So I was a little bit forceful, maybe even a little bit rude, but I'd waited 39 years to be a dad, and I wasn't going to have somebody just throw some dust in the wind and say maybe it's that. So I said, "No, we're gonna take a look at this." So he sent us down to the Apple Hill Medical Campus, and we had to have our baby drink some light me up formula so they can take X-rays and things like that. And I remember it was about 2 or 3 hours we were down there, because obviously kids can't just gulp this stuff down. And all of a sudden I got a phone call, and "Mr. Smith, the phone for you." And it wasn't so urgent, but it was pretty urgent. The doctor basically said, "Hey, you need to take your daughter up to Hershey Medical Center now." So didn't really understand what was going on. So Heather and I got our daughter. We went up to Hershey Medical Center, and she wasn't even a month old yet. And I remember this specifically because she ended up going for surgery on my birthday. So we take her up to Hershey Med Center. Well, Hershey Med Center did not have a bed available anywhere but on the child's oncology ward. And they got her in a room, and of course we were up there. But walking the halls and seeing these young kids with IVs dripped in them, loss of hair from chemo, and their spirits and their smile. Crazy. And the one thing I remember, the one day, they had these big, not French doors, but this big glass door, very pretty. It wasn't like a typical hospital or high school classroom kind of door. And they had a young lady out there, must have been about 12. And she was in the hallway. And I guess they couldn't get her, whatever reason. I don't know if they were taking her down for her. I don't know. I honestly, guys, I don't know. But this poor girl was screaming in such pain because she'd been poked and prodded with needles for so long. She had nothing, everything hurt. And you just want to hug her. You don't know what to do. So I should have done this video. Anyway, thank you to the staff up there. Let me try to compose myself a bit. Kira's situation wasn't that vital. She had something called pyloric stenosis, which, as the doctor explained it, was imagine if you have a ring that gets tight on your finger and you can't get it off, and you just cut the ring and it opens up. Well, she had a muscle that was constrained real tight from the bottom of her stomach into her intestine, and the food wasn't passing through. So the doctors had to do a procedure where they put a little nick in it, the muscle opened up, and everything flowed fine. And I didn't mean to get away from the other thing. I just was getting too emotional. But later on in my journey, you're going to hear me talking about St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which is an amazing facility. And some folks have talked to me about fundraising and using this platform for good. And if we do that, I do want to make sure that St. Jude's is at the top of my list, because what they do for people, much like the Shriners, is they take families of these children and they don't ask for a penny for their service. They treat them, they treat the family, and the families don't have to worry about anything. And that's just an amazing, amazing thing. So, love you guys. Sorry if this got stupid. And have a good day, guys. All right? Thanks.